The United States built the automobile, but who invented it? No single person invented the automobile. Instead, it was the result of decades of innovation by people all over the world. But by 1903, a man named Henry Ford stood in Detroit, Michigan, with a plan. He wanted to make cars not just for the rich, but for every American. The U.S. was full of dirt roads and horse-drawn wagons. Cars were rare, noisy, and expensive, but Ford had a bigger vision. He believed America could become the leader in car production. That year, the Ford Motor Company was born. Soon, Detroit became the heart of the American auto industry. But this was just the start. The real race was not on a track. It was in factories, design rooms, and showrooms. Other American car makers like General Motors and Chrysler joined the fight. Every company wanted to make the fastest, most reliable, and most affordable car. By the 1920s, the streets of Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles were filled with the hum of engines. The automobile wasn't just transportation, it was freedom. And the U.S. was building them faster than anyone else. The world began to notice. But what America didn't know was that a new challenge was coming. Other countries were watching, and they wanted to beat the United States at its own game. By the 1930s, Detroit was more than just another American city. It was the beating heart of the global auto industry. The streets were filled with factory workers. Smoke poured out of giant plants owned by Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Every day, thousands of cars rolled off the assembly lines. The Ford Model T had already changed the world, making driving possible for the everyday American. But the competition was getting fierce. Car companies were in a war not with guns, but with horsepower. They raced to design faster engines, smoother rides, and stronger bodies. American highways were expanding, and cars had to match the speed of the nation's growth. The famous Route 66 opened, connecting Chicago to Los Angeles. Road trips became a new American tradition. Families packed up, hit the open road, and discovered the freedom a car could bring. But behind the scenes, there was pressure. Every company knew that one wrong design, one failed engine, could destroy years of progress. Leaders pushed their teams harder. The stakes were high. Detroit's reputation as Motor City was on the line. Across the ocean, European engineers were starting to experiment with sleek sports cars. The first whispers of global competition were in the air. America had built an empire on wheels, but could it defend it? Welcome to the channel. When you hear the words muscle car, what comes to mind? Powerful engines, loud roars, and bold designs. The 1950s brought a new kind of car to America, the muscle car. Detroit's biggest companies were ready to fight for the title of America's fastest car. The Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Camaro, and Dodge Charger raced on highways and drag strips. Teenagers and racers dreamed of owning these beasts. But the muscle car era was more than just speed. It was a fight for the soul of America's car culture. Every company wanted to be the king. Engineers worked day and night testing new fuels and designs. Rivalries burned hot. Secret test tracks pushed cars to their limits. Speed records were broken. But danger loomed. Racing was deadly, and one crash could ruin a reputation. The government started paying attention. Safety laws and emissions rules threatened the muscle car boom. The battle wasn't just on the streets anymore. It was in the courtrooms and boardrooms. Still, the roar of muscle cars echoed across the country, symbolizing freedom and rebellion. But deep down, everyone knew this golden era might not last forever. A new kind of challenge was coming. Smaller, smarter cars from overseas were ready to shake America's car kingdom. The 1970s, a time when the American car empire was at its peak. That is, until it wasn't. A new enemy had arrived, one that was small, fuel-efficient, and reliable. And the Americans were shocked. After decades of building big, powerful muscle cars, suddenly people wanted something different. The oil crisis had made gas expensive and muscle cars were losing their shine. Detroit's giants were struggling to adapt. Factories were slowing down and workers were afraid they'd lose their jobs. But the fight wasn't over yet. Detroit's engineers and designers raced against time to build better cars. They developed new technologies, safer features, and modern designs. The Mustang was completely redesigned. Other companies tried to blend power with efficiency, but despite these efforts, foreign brands continued to gain market share every single year. The question was, could Detroit survive the storm? Behind the scenes, major deals were being made, companies were merging, and new strategies were born. The heart of the American car industry was still beating, but was it strong enough to survive the foreign invasion? The 1980s, Detroit knew that brute horsepower alone couldn't win the war. The new battlefield was technology. American car makers poured millions into research. Computer-assisted design, advanced safety systems, aerodynamic shapes, factories upgraded with robots and faster assembly lines. The Corvette evolved into a high-tech speed machine. Ford introduced turbocharged engines. Chrysler surprised the industry with its minivan, a family-friendly revolution that sold millions. But innovation came with risk. Every new design could be a hit or a disaster. A single recall could destroy the trust. Meanwhile, Japan kept improving, and Europe brought luxury brands like BMW and Mercedes into the fight. American companies were forced to adapt faster than ever. Electric concepts, hybrid experiments, bold prototypes, they were all the rage at auto shows. The message was clear. America wasn't giving up. The car wars were entering a new phase, and the winner would shape the roads of the world. By the 2000s, a new storm was brewing. Climate change and rising fuel prices pushed the world toward cleaner cars. While Detroit worked on hybrids and fuel-efficient engines, a startup from California entered the game, Tesla, led by Elon Musk. Tesla promised fully electric cars that were fast, stylish, and high-tech. At first, many laughed, but soon the laughs faded. The Tesla Roadster broke records. The Model S won awards. Electric cars were no longer a dream. They were real, and they were coming fast. Detroit's giants scrambled to respond. Ford announced electric trucks. GM revived the Hummer as an EVA. Billions were invested in battery plants across the U.S., but the race wasn't easy. Building an electric car was different from building a gas engine. Supply chains had to change. Workers had to learn new skills, and mistakes were costly. Meanwhile, Tesla kept growing, attracting loyal fans and changing the way people saw cars. The American car industry was in another fight for its life, but this time the challenger was one of its own. Today, the American car industry stands at a crossroads. On one side, Detroit still builds trucks, SUVs, and sports cars that define American culture. On the other side, Tesla leads the electric revolution. Ford's F-150 Lightning and GM's electric Silverado promise a new era of power without gasoline. Startups are testing self-driving cars on the streets of San Francisco and Phoenix. But the competition is global. China builds electric cars at record speed. Europe pushes for zero-emission rules. Every company knows one thing: the next decade will decide who rules the road. Technology, speed, and efficiency will decide the winners and losers. Factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Texas work around the clock. Engineers push the limits in labs and wind tunnels. Investors bet billions. The question is, can America build the world's most iconic cars again? The answer lies in the hands of innovators, dreamers, and risk-takers. The race is far from over. And the world is watching.